So my thing is, if 50-50 isn't good enough because you're making just as much as your man, and he needs to make 2 to 3 times more than you so you can put up your whole paycheck, why not just not work? You want a luxury lifestyle.
Well,
This is the thing, but
I
you,
will say this,
you
right? Because again, going back to the whole thing, for women, men and women are wired differently. Let's just set that out straight. Men value other things
we value
over.
respect. We value
It's
respect.
not.
We
It's
really
not
do.
solely respect, but like,
That's
listen,
that's
listen, listen.
that's
So men value other things. They value respect. They value how a woman looks. They value how she treats him. They value, peace of mind. They value other things like that. Women, on the other hand, um, they value financial security. They value emotional intelligence. They value other things that don't necessarily make sense to guys because a man's brain is more logical and analytically wired, whereas a woman's brain is more emotionally wired. And so sometimes, as we all know, your emotions can kind of get the best of you, and you don't necessarily think rationally and or logically, which doesn't make sense to a man half the time. And so those two things kind of clash. There's overlap in that whole thing. But again, the reason why men gravitate towards certain things. So when it comes to like men not caring necessarily about how much money a woman makes, but he values what type of woman she is. Whereas a woman will value like, okay, I can help you make you into a better type of husband or man for me because you're making this amount of money. Like the way and their reasoning for it are in two different planes.
so. Also, I want to talk about. You are correct. Like for me, a woman who carries herself a certain way, I prefer like when I'm out in public, I want her to be viewed with respect. The one fear that a lot of men have is a woman with a high body count is you're gonna walk out with her and someone you know is gonna be like, oh yeah, I had that back in the day, or you're at a business dinner and she's talking to someone and he's like, you're like, who's that? Oh, me and him used to date. And everywhere you go, if it's like that, it's like, oh man, I'm sharing my woman with James, Jonathan, Tyrone, Kendall, all of them being with my woman, and we like to feel like we're. I'm not just talking about sexually; I'm talking about emotionally. Like I've shared a piece of her with all these people, and though that's something men do not like. Like
It's
when we get, I know I just started a whole nother conversation about body count, and I get it. Some men have high body counts, but if you think about it from a biological perspective, that's what men are made to do. That's why
actually research has already come out and been proven for both men and women. The more people that you
the
have
less likely you are to
intersex
pair
with,
bond.
you have a harder time
Pair bonding.
connecting with people in a way that you need to.
And I have a video for that. As a matter of fact, it was one of the videos I wanted to bring up with you later.
Oh,
Uh, it's from Eight at the Table where they're talking about peer bonding. Like in that specific video, they bring in a behavior specialist, and she gives them the definition of pair bonding, and they talk about different areas in which why it's
I know
harder to connect.
psychologically, like they have done studies like that it shows the activation and all that everything of how like the scientific breakdown of it.
Yeah,
But literally, the more people that you're intimate with, the less likely you are to form the necessary connections with somebody. The
yeah,
harder
and
is it
the
it is
definition
for all of that.
the definition for intimate is not just for men. It's like not just sex. It's more like they care for, and I think it's like anything over 18, it makes it exponentially harder for them to settle down with one person.
But
Even though I disagree with that number 18, that's a low number.
wait, what?
You should see your face. You think 18 is a lot of people to be with mentally and physically?
Sort of.
Well, that's a whole. But my point is, as a man, you want a woman in the streets and a freak in the sheets, and you don't want to be sharing her with every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there.
All
So
right.
but that's the double standard for men on the sex area, especially. the more partners that a woman have, she's a Jezebel, she's a slut, she's a hoe. For a man, he's the man. And the reason being is men, we just don't like sharing. And this generation now seems like you can say hey and they want to give you some off off rip. Like, hey girl, you cute.
Because the hookup culture is real.
So that's the double standard. Like they love to bring up, but what's not said is that men are really actually made to spread their seed. That's why we can have. Because think about this: if you're alone on a desert island with 10 women and one man, he can get all the women pregnant at one time. But if you have one woman alone on a desert island with 10 men, she can only get pregnant once. So who's more likely to repopulate that island?
I mean, it literally takes both of them to repopulate the island. Let's just be real.
You're missing my point.
I understand your point.
I'm talking about population. I'm talking about number, not individual. I'm talking about numbers. Like you got 10 babies being born versus one. Okay. That's my point on that. I got you. So I look like I hit a nerve on you, but my point.
You didn't. I don't care that much anymore.
My point is that's the reason a lot of times for the sexual double standard when it comes to men and women.
Okay.
Right or wrong, I'm not here to judge, but that's legitimately how, if you look at the animal kingdom, most species are. Males have multiple women, and there's always the one dominant male. Not always.
But if another male comes in, he kills the babies. Like that's just
he kills the baby and he'll kill the
offspring.
Yeah, and that is true, especially with lions. And the mothers have to hide babies until they mature.
Well, if they can.
Yeah, they have to. But also, but also, what mothers in this case will do is they will give up their bodies to protect their children to let them get away. And you know what I mean by that. Mm-hmm. But
with all that being said, you guys, please let us know what you.
Oh, I wanted to go a little bit longer.
I mean, we're already at 24 minutes.
We're just going to get cut up into like 2 different videos, maybe 3. Because I wanted about 7 or 8 minutes a piece. Because we got body double standards, and then we talked about accountability, and then we just now scratching the surface on the one that's going to get somebody.
We actually been talking about this one for a good minute.
No, I've been. You haven't really.
I know, because you ain't been letting me say much.
And I'm waiting on you right now.
Every time I say something, you keep talking, so I just shut up.
So what is your thought about?
I don't have nothing to I'm done talking.
I don't like when you do that, because we gotta. I'm trying to make this into like 3 videos right here.
So I will say this: the whole thing with the double standards when it comes to like sex intimacy and all of that, I get the fact of like men not wanting to feel like their woman has been with everybody and all of this other stuff. However, I also think that it's kind of unrealistic at this point in time in America. I won't speak for other places, but in America, for the vast majority of people to not have been with anybody, because of our culture here. And I won't say that it's like crazy to be like, oh, you've been with 30 people. Like that's completely acceptable. That's a bit excessive for men and women. But there are plenty of people out there who are doing whatever they're doing and think that it's fine. We will take a prime example of all of these adult film girls, and now even like the OnlyFans girls coming back and saying that they are having a hard time dating, or they just want to be a wife but nobody wants to marry them, this, that, and the third. Well, I mean, quite honestly, you put all your stuff out there for everybody in the world to see,
literally,
and you expect somebody to come and be like, oh, that's not a problem, when we all know that it's a huge problem. Like, let's just be honest.
Yeah, but you went on the extremes with the OnlyFans and porn stars. Like, my thing is, you're a porn star and you think somebody's gonna take you serious. I'm supposed to marry you knowing that somebody jizzed all over your face on camera,
and it's on the internet.
Like every time, I can't even kiss you without thinking about that. That was that dude on her school episode or whatever the theme was at the time, you know.
Ew.
You know, or right now the popular themes is like family kissing, family stepdad, stepdaughter, and stuff like that. Like it's ridiculous. But my thing is, I really want to go back on Nick Cannon, but that's a whole episode by itself. Well, not Nick
We can
Cannon
go back
per
to
se,
Nick Cannon.
but I want to go.
Hold on.
All right, everybody. So we're gonna save that for another episode. Thank you for joining us. You got anything else you want to add on that?
No.